Hello and welcome. My name's Marie and this is my yarn journey. Hope you are well and that you've had a fantastic time over the festive period, whatever you've been doing. We've spent some lovely time with family and it's been really nice, and we're just at that in-between stage of Christmas and New Year where the house looks like a bomb's gone off and we don't know what day it is. I am recording this very early on Sunday morning. Everybody else is in bed, so I'm trying to talk quite quietly, and we all have got varying degrees of a cold or bug that's going around that ends up in a sore throat, nasty cough, that sort of thing. So hopefully my voice doesn't sound too terrible. Today I've got a few things to talk to you about. So I didn't get loads of knitty gifts for Christmas, but I did get a couple of things and I'm going to talk to you about them. One very exciting one which I'm sure you'll all appreciate. I've got 2 finished objects. I've got my blanket progress to show you, and I've also got a swatch I've done and a swatch that I will be doing. But before we dive into all that, I am wearing my Purl sweater today. Bit of a, I'm not sure if you can see on camera, but I am actually got my pyjama pants on. I just quickly shoved this top on so I could record for you. Yeah, I'm not a fan of being on camera with my PJs on. I thought this was the sweater that I had on yesterday. I thought I'd put this on for the video. And this is my Purl sweater, which you know I absolutely love. And I probably will do one of these again. And I probably would use the same yarn because I really liked the way it turned out. Oh, and this is woolly knit cone. It's the merino. Not the softest of merinos, but it does soften up over time. And it's very sturdy, cozy and warm sweater that is really nice to wear. And it's standing the test of time, so that's a good thing, isn't it, when you put all the effort in, especially with these long ribbings that seem to go on forever. So the first finished object, I think I'd only cast this on last week, and it's my Flickering Flames hot water bottle cover by Laura Penrose. I saw she put this pattern up and I've been looking to do one of her hot water bottle covers quite some time, and I thought this would be a very simple option. I'm not sure if I should have used a slightly bigger needle size. It does seem quite stretched out over the hot water bottle cover. I'm not sure if you can see, there's quite a big gap between my cable rows. But it was very simple to knit. Really enjoyed it. I blocked it on the actual hot water bottle because I thought that would be an easy way to get it on. And the only thing is, if you can see, look at my collar. I maybe should have done that a little bit longer. And also I did a stretchy bind off on it and it's just a little bit loose and wobbly, but it's a hot water bottle cover, it doesn't matter. I just wish I'd done it a little bit longer, the neck. Excuse my half nail, it came off yesterday. I just need to get that sorted out. But anyway, I'm really pleased. I thought it was a lovely way to use a single skein. I held the fingering weight double and I had a bit left which I've put into my blanket this morning. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased really. And I'd definitely do something like this again. It didn't take too long to do because I wasn't really sure if I'd have enough yarn, to be fair, but yeah, definitely ended up. And I have used this a few times now and it's really nice because my old case for this was, the Velcro had stopped working and it was coming off. Now my second finished object is my socks using the yarn that I won from the knit along that Yarn and Glitter and Cozy Crab did, which was a sock along in November. Now I got this yarn, which is a green lambkins yarn, and it was Mrs. Claus, I think it was called. It was Santa's wife anyway. And I decided to do a DK pair of toe up Flickle heel socks and knit them 2 at a time because I really like doing it that way. And what I will say is I went down, so I can't remember exactly, I think I was using a 3.5 last time, and the last pair that I did like this was stretched out as soon as I wore them, went very, very baggy, to the point where they are just going to be house socks or bed socks. Although I absolutely love that pair of socks, love the colour, the softness, everything. So my idea was, I had mentioned in the video, and AJ had said, why don't you go down a needle size? So that's what I decided to do. So I knit these on a 3mm needle. I was holding the yarn double, and I wanted to use up as much of the skein as possible. I'm really, really pleased with the way that the striping has, well, not the striping, but the patterning from the colourway has come out with me holding it double. I think it's really mixed those colours in really well. The only thing I would say is doing it on a 3mm, it was pretty tough on my hands. So I did have to do it in stages. And then I got quite a few more rows of ribbon. It's a short leg, but I've used up most of the yarn. I've put a stripe into my blanket, and this is all I've got left. So yeah, pretty good way to use up a 100-gram skein of fingering. I've got so many of those in stash. Now, I've not tried these on, so I might do that now. I've actually got another pair of my, sorry, I have had these on all day yesterday, and these are my Hibernal socks. As you can see, look how baggy they've gone just by wearing them yesterday. And now there's another thing to mention with these socks as I am putting them on, is that I decided in my wisdom to try doing a different bind off. So normally the stretchy bind off that I do is, so you do your knit, you do your purl for your ribbing, and then you knit them 2 stitches together through the back loop rather than doing a pass over. So that for me does work out to be a very stretchy bind off, but it's just not quite as neat as I would like. And I know it doesn't really matter, but I was trying to find a stretchy bind off that looked slightly neater. Now I was doing a search on YouTube, and I found one that was Laurie's or Lottie's stretchy bind off, and it's where you twist your stitch before you do the passover. Now, it was very simple to do. I'm going to try and show you across the top here, this side of the sock, I've done that. What I did find was, even though it looks, as you can see, that side is the new stretchy bind off, it's neat. It's a bit different because you can see the twist, but it looks nice and your ribbing looks really neatly finished. But unfortunately for me, it was one of them that was too tight again. It feels quite stretchy when you're pulling it, but it wasn't stretchy enough to get over my heel at all. It might just be because these socks are a lot tighter than what I've been making. Now, I'm going to try and put my foot up and show you. Great fit when they're on, but there's never seems to be a happy medium with me. I don't know why, but it's like you know, they're either too baggy or they're too tight. But when I take these off, there's no stretching out, even though they feel quite snug on my leg. And all I can do is test them out, really. And I think that is what I'm going to do. I know normally what I do with all my socks, and I will be doing it with some of them, is I'm just chucking them in my box of socks. But there's no point. I don't want to happen what happened last year with all these socks and you know, be too big and stretch out and not wearable. So another 12 months of doing socks and then be wrong. So yes, I need to get to the point where I am happy and they don't stretch out. These at the moment feel quite snug, but we shall see when I wear them what happens. But the colour and the way that the yarn has gone with the variegation, I'm really, really pleased with those. But yeah, I ended up having to, on the first sock when I was doing that bind off, then I was halfway through the other and I thought, you know what, I need to check this, and I really struggled to get it over my heel. So I ended up changing back to my normal stretchy bind off halfway through, and then unpicking the first sock about halfway, unpicking the bind off and just redoing half of it. It's such a shame because it does look pretty neat where you can see I've done the bind off, whereas my normal bind off looks a bit janky. Now, what I did do with these, I did not block them on the sock blocker. So if I do find that these are too snug overall, then I could always block them again and put them on the sock blocker. But it's all a bit of trial and error at the moment. I just wish, you know, I don't know what it is with me in socks. I enjoy knitting socks. I really just don't seem to be able to find that sweet spot for me with socks. But I'm going to keep going. I've got lots and lots of single skeins to be practicing on, so I will continue to do that. And the last project that I want to show you, I am in the middle of doing a stripe, unfortunately, because I got a little bit behind the last few days before Christmas. I think I had, is it 4? Yeah, I had 4 or 5 colours left to add in from whenever I last updated you. And I didn't show you the last few colours. I've still got 2 to add in. So I've got this lovely one, which I think I did show you on camera. And then I've got another pink to add in, which I will get done today. I also want to sew in some of my ends because that's getting a bit out of hand. But I'll show you my stitch marker. Hopefully you can see my little Christmas tree there. And that's what I've done since the beginning of December. I had done a bit more before that. Finally, after all this knitting, I am finally understanding the pattern more because I've taken the time to actually notice what I'm doing rather than just mindlessly doing it, because I still, even when I picked it up, I think I said before, made a mistake and did it wrong. I'm not too bothered if there is mistakes in it, like I said before, but I thought, come on, Marie, after all this time, you do need to get your act together and figure out why occasionally you keep doing it wrong. So I think I've got to grips with that now, when to do the knits and when to do the pearls, that sort of thing. And like I say, I'm just on the halfway through a stripe at the moment. I've got a bunch of ends here that need weaving in. I was knitting over my ends at one point, but I don't know which I prefer, to be honest, the knitting over the ends, or I think I prefer just sewing them in. It's never going to look great on the back with my sewing in or my knitting mains in, but still pretty pleased with how this is turning out. That's the full length so far. The width is quite big. I think 2 people could quite comfortably have this as a blanket on the sofa. So it will be great to snuggle under, but there's just quite a lot more knitting to be done to make it long enough. At the moment it's not even really lap length, I wouldn't say, but I have enjoyed working on it. It hasn't been quite as high a priority because I started doing the shawl, which I haven't shown you today because I literally haven't worked on it. I ended up getting distracted doing the hot water bottle cover, and yeah, haven't worked on that. I will pick it back up and get it finished. My idea, I think, for January is to do a bit of a reset, get my whips out again, decide what I'm going to do when. I'm also thinking about, I really need to get that advertisement blanket finished. There's something blocking me with that, and I would like to get it done. I just don't feel, I haven't been motivated to do it, but I was thinking, because what I've thought with this is I really need to be doing more. I mean, it's going to take me years and years if I just do it in December, isn't it? And also I've got the idea to do the cosy memories throw, which I can put any smaller weights of yarns in and use all those little bits that are left over. So I think my plan, like I say, for January, and I probably will talk about this a bit more next week, is I'll get all my whips out, I'll go through them all, decide some sort of order of what I want to work on throughout January to try and get some off the needles, give me a bit of a fresh start. And then I would like to keep my morning knitting time with my brew to some sort of blanket. Now my idea would be first to crack back on with the advertisements and keep going on that blanket until it's finished. Once I get to that point, I would ideally, in an ideal world, like to work first of all a stripe on this, and then with the any remaining yarn I have left when I'm doing this, is to have the cosy throw or whatever it's called on the needles, and the next thing I do is then work it into that blanket, if that makes sense. But that will be further down the line. I think if I get that advertisement off the needles, even if it takes me 6 months just by doing it in the morning, doing a couple of rows a day, it's not as wide as this one, so hopefully I'll definitely be able to get 2 rows done in the morning, and I'll just keep going until it's finished, and then I can focus on my blanket knitting being this and cast on that other one. I just think then I can use up the scraps straight away from all finished projects, and I've got a lot of scraps to use up in stash. And yesterday I did do a swatch, and this is my swatch. I'm using an Ula and Leah yarn. It's a fingering weight, and it's a beautiful purpley colour. And this is for the Ukrainian designers pattern. I think it's called Kutik, but I will put the name up on the screen because I find it very hard to pronounce and I can't remember her name properly. And I've done a lovely big swatch here. I've not checked my gauge yet. I'm hoping for 25 stitch gauge for the size I want to do. But the lovely thing about her pattern is there is 3 separate gauges that you can that she does the details for. Now, the pattern writing style of this designer is totally different to anything I have done before. I've gone on the recommendation of, she's called Nicotina, which is another YouTuber, And she has fantastic attention to detail. She looks into how garments are constructed. I love watching her videos because you get a lot of depth and understanding with her. And she knits a pattern from this designer with her for her partner, and it was a hoodie. And she was raving about all the details, and she's now going to knit another one of this designer's sweaters, I think, for herself. And she inspired me to purchase one of the patterns and download it. And then I've been looking for something in stash, and I found that I actually had 4 skeins of this, not the 3. So I thought that would be enough to knit. I'm really happy with the drape and the fabric I'm getting. I was a little bit concerned. Again, sometimes I know that I really like it when I get a bit of a more drapier fabric. And that's what I like about doing the summer knits. And yeah, I just need to measure it later and see what my gauge is coming out at. Hopefully it's good. I'm on a 3.75 millimeter, so not too bad for fingering, is it? It shouldn't be too taxing on the hands. The only other thing to say is that, yeah, regarding the designers of patterns, I was quite overwhelmed when I looked at it. So I downloaded what I thought was the pattern. It must have been about maybe 7 to 10 pages in length, which is about right for a sweater pattern. Well, the ones that I've got so far. Some are longer, some are shorter, but generally you get around that sort of size. And didn't really think much more of it. I'd looked at the sizing, I'd looked at what I needed for the yarn because all that detail was there. And there was a few pages that were mentioning the construction, but I didn't look any further into the pattern because I wasn't at the stage where I was going to be starting it. And yesterday, when I was looking at it in more detail, I realised that once you'd picked the size that you were going to do in and you knew your gauge and all that from the charts, you then had to download another document, which is actually the pattern for your size. So I was like, oh, right, okay then. So I did that. I downloaded the size that I'm hoping to make. And yeah, it's definitely written in a very, very different style to what I'm used to. Hopefully, once I start knitting it, it will become self-explanatory. It's a saddle shoulder V-neck construction, which I have done saddle shoulders before. I've done many different types of constructions. I'm not phased by the actual construction or the actual sweater. It's more that I'm phased by the layout and writing style. But I'm hoping once I get going, like with most patterns, it will become, you know, self-explanatory. And the other thing that I want to get done today is I'd like to make another swatch. And this is something that's another challenging project, but for a different reason. And this is the yarn that I'm using, which is what my dad got me for Christmas. And I'm doing the November jacket by Petite Knit. Now, her writing style is very simple. You just get what you need in the pattern, nothing more, nothing less. And it's not the pattern or the yarn or anything like that that seems complicated. It's more that it's in brioche. And I haven't really done brioche. I did brioche once and I found it. Well, I tried to do the brioche shawl, which is for the advent, and I found that really hard, but I think it was because I was using the wrong type of yarn. Now, it's yarn. Brioche, if you don't know, is done with yarn overs, and I'm notoriously bad for yarn overs, but I have since watched, while I was thinking about doing this swatch, I have watched a tutorial by Stephen West. Now, the pattern I'm doing, I'm sure Petite Knit probably has a thing, but I just thought I'm going to remind myself again of it. And see, what I found tricky was understanding from my stitches what was the yarn over and what was the stitch. So you have a stitch that's wrapped in a yarn over that you knit together, and then you have another stitch and separate to that, and mine were getting all muddled up on the needles. But what I think I was trying to do is keep my yarn out, which is what I normally tend to do in a pattern, is try to keep my yarn over very separate from my stitch. And the way that Stephen West showed it made much more sense to me, in that the yarn over was wrapped over a stitch. And then when you come to knit those two together, it's a lot more, or it's a little bit easier then to see which need to be knit together and which don't. So I will rewatch that tutorial again while I knit up this swatch. I thought, I want to do a swatch, I want to get it right, I want to check that I'm on the right needle size, but I also want to have a practice at doing the stitch pattern again. Like I say, I did do a little bit actually on the OLE mittens that I ripped out. I did about this much of the cuff, but it's a long time ago since I did that. So, and then I'll just talk to you now about books, because I have finished my Christmas book. So I think I'm not sure if I told you actually last week that this is the second Christmas book I've read this season. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this story. It was just what I needed on the run up to Christmas, and I actually finished this on Christmas Eve, which was great because I knew there was a potential that I was going to get new books for Christmas. And so yeah, if you want a cozy Christmas romance, this is definitely one of those. And surprisingly, that story had dogs in, and the story I'm going to tell you about now has. Now, this is one of the books that I got for Christmas, a real chunky 500-page read, and oh, I thoroughly enjoyed. This is a fantastic cozy romance story, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've devoured it, as you can tell. I started it Christmas night, and yesterday I spent most of the day reading this. Hence why I didn't get my blanket finished, because I didn't even read a knit. I was just sitting and reading, which was really enjoyable for a change. And I have started another book, which is The Last Witch. But I've left that upstairs, and like I say, everyone's asleep right now. So regards knitting gifts for Christmas, my partner bought me this absolutely fabulous wool winder. So I do have a wool winder. So I originally bought a wool winder and a Swift as a set together, just plastic ones from Amazon, and they were relatively reasonably priced. I think it was £40 for the two of them, and they were good up until a point. But the Swift was the first thing which was really annoying. It was really hard to get it to go up and down sometimes, and it was very temperamental, and it was really driving me insane. So I'm not sure if it was last Christmas or the Christmas before, I put on my list, or asked my partner if he would get me the Knit Pro wooden Swift, which he did, and that was absolutely fantastic to use, and I love using it. And since getting that, I then realised that I wanted an upgrade on my winder, because it isn't the best and it falls off the side, and it's just, yeah, a bit of a pain to use. And I've seen that a few people on YouTube had this one and were raving about it. It's a Stanwood. It's come from America, so not the cheapest to get in the UK, but I used it to wind up this yarn, and it was an absolute joy. It's a lot easier to fit onto a different surfaces because of that. It's fully metal, and it also tensions the yarn very well because it's got the two eyelets. This one actually goes around like this, but yeah, the build quality of this is fantastic. I'm sure it will last me for years and years to come, and I'm very pleased that he got me that for Christmas. And that's everything to update you on. So sorry the video was a little bit delayed this week. Rather than a Friday knit chat, you've got a Sunday knit chat, but sounds like there's movement in the house now, so I'm going to leave you there and have a wonderful new year, and I'll see you at the end of the week. Might be Friday, might be Sunday again, who knows. Have a lovely week. Bye, see you next time.